view allowed into their conventions. There's no one allowed to promote uh, Islam or Judaism or the Church of Scientology or atheism. There's no one allowed to promote atheism in a forum, in a church. You see, I had a friend that I worked with. This is a friend offline. She was a friend of mine that I worked with. I worked at the same factory. Sometimes I worked in the department with her. Most of the time I worked in other departments, but we took breaks together. We talked together at lunch. We didn't always talk together at lunch or on breaks, but we did. We probably talked at least twice a week at a break or on a lunch hour. And she found out. She found out that I went to an atheist event. Now, she thought I'd went to some kind of atheist convention. And I'd left on a Friday night, but I knew I was leaving, so I told a few people at work that I was going to, what I was going to do was I was going to visit my daughter over the weekend at her college. And my daughter had emailed me and told me, Dad, you've got to get up here to the college this weekend. And it was about 250 miles away. It was about a 5-hour drive. Or, no, 3-hour drive. And so, she said, Dad, you've got to get up here this weekend. Richard Dawkins is going to give a lecture here Saturday night at our college. I'm going. All my friends are going. And I know that you would love to listen and meet Richard Dawkins. Well, I told my wife, my wife told me about the email and that she had got it. I read it in my inbox, and we agreed, yes, we got to go to this. So we packed our bags and stayed there Saturday and Sunday. All during the Saturday, we visited with our daughter and her friends. We took them out for lunch, the regular things that a parent of a college student does. You go up and visit your daughter. You take out the friends she hangs around with. You take them out for lunch. You might even take them out for dinner. And we kind of hung around. We played pool. We played ice hockey on the table, ice hockey. Stuff. We played pinball machines and things that was in the rec room. And anyway, that Saturday night, Richard Dawkins, a lecture. I'd never met him. I'd watched his YouTube videos. I had 4 or 5 of his books, and I brought a book with me to the lecture. I thought, maybe, just maybe, I'll get the chance to meet Richard Dawkins and have him sign my book at least. And this coworker had found out, since I'd told a few of the people I regularly work with, that I was going to this event. She misunderstood and thought I was going to a convention. Well, it wasn't a convention, it was just a Richard Dawkins lecture. Of course, there was a lot of atheists, I guess, in the audience. I assumed most of them were. So that Monday when I got back to work on break, she sat down with me and she just looked upset and nervous. And what's wrong? Oh, nothing. And then it came lunch hour, and she came and sat down, and she was just had that worried look on her face. And I asked her a couple times, what's wrong, what's bothering you? And she said, well, I can't stand it any longer. About halfway through the the lunch break, she said, I can't stand it any longer. I heard you went to an atheist convention. So I told her I didn't go to a convention. I just went to where an atheist, Richard Dawkins, was lecturing at my daughter's college. Oh, man, I thought you'd went to a convention, and I was just so worried about it. You know, the thought of a bunch of atheists getting together just scares me to death. I was terrified of just the thought of a bunch of atheists getting together and meeting. It just terrifies me. And I said, her first name was Sandy. I said, Sandy, do you realize what you're saying? Well, John, it just terrifies me. You atheists getting together. I said, Sandy, how do you think I feel knowing that you and your Christian colleagues get together every Sunday? A church full of Christians. And it's not just a convention. It's every Sunday you people get together. How do you think I feel about that? You think that frightens me? Well, I never thought of it that way, but I'm still terrified and frightened of the thought of atheists getting together. And I said, well, I'm terrified and frightened when I think about you assholes getting together in church every Sunday. You betcha. It is scary to think that a bunch of slaves, y'all's are master slaves, are getting together and bowing down to authority, kissing ass, unquestioning what your church tells you to do. It's frightening. It's upsetting to me. I walk around this factory. I walk around my hometown. I drive over here to work, and everyone I pass on the highway, I know, is likely a Christian. I'm surrounded by Christians. When I go shopping, I'm surrounded by Christians. And I know that a lot of you Christians get together every Sunday. Sometimes you get together on Wednesday. And I know that you have prayer meetings in somebody's home. And you have crusades and other conventions, Christian conventions. And you think you have the right to do that. But atheists do not have the same right to get together and share their worldview. Well, it just frightens me. See, when I first met Sandy, she believed that atheists were Satan worshipers. You're an atheist, she said to me. Why do you worship Satan? I said, atheists do not believe in God. Satan claims to be God, wants to be worshipped as God. We don't worship Satan. Satan is an unquestionable authority. We question authority. We don't worship any authority. I don't worship the President of the United States. I don't worship the United States. When the United States is wrong, it's wrong. And atheists do not worship Satan. Atheists do not worship Lucifer. Atheists do not have any superstitious rituals. We're not praying to Satan. As a matter of fact, Sandy, you are the one praying to Satan. What? She was very shocked that I told her that. I said, there is no God, and Satan wants to be worshipped as God, and you worship Jehovah as if Jehovah is God, and there is no God. Jehovah is Satan. Just like Satan, Jehovah wants to be worshipped as God, and there is no God. Well, that ended that conversation. She still remained my friend, but she was frightened that somebody dared think different than her, because, you see, in her world, there were no atheists. You're the first atheist I've ever met, she told me. And I laughed, and I said, Sandy, I'm not the first atheist you've ever met. I'm just the first one to tell you to your face that I'm an atheist. I said, when you go to church next Sunday, because I knew she was going, she's a regular Sunday-going church Christian. I said, when you go to church next Sunday, you look around, and 20 to 25% of the people in that church are atheists. They're just going along to get along, to keep a job, to try to get a promotion. They're a car salesman. They want to sell you a car, and they know if they tell you that they're an atheist, you won't buy a car off of them. So they tell you that they're a Christian. Because even if you're not a Christian, you won't hold it against them that they're a Christian, and you'll still buy a car from them. But they can't tell you who they really are, an atheist, because you'll hold that against them. I said, when you're walking around in this factory, there are probably 2 or 3 at least. I think the factory had about 500 employees in the factory, in union members, 500. And I said, out of these 500 union members, there's probably at least 4 or 5 more atheists than just me. But I know that they're never going to tell anybody that they're atheists, because they're hiding. They're hiding in plain sight because they're worried about what people will do to them, that they'll lose their family and their friends, and co-workers won't talk to them, and their neighbors won't talk to them. They'll be isolated, because that's what people do when someone has a different opinion. The black person can't hide that they're black. The Oriental person can't hide that they're Oriental. The person with blue eyes mostly can't hide that they've got blue eyes. But an atheist can hide. They can claim and lie and say they are Christian. So Sandy, I said, you know some atheists. They just too chicken shit to tell you they're atheists. I tell everybody that I meet that I'm atheist. When it comes up, if I knew one person, I knew him for 2 or 3 weeks before they said, what church, I go to church, I go to this church. What church do you go to? I don't go to church, I'm an atheist. I don't bring it up. I don't say, well, hello, Mr. or hello, Mrs. My name is John, blah, blah, blah. I'm an atheist. I don't blurt it out. But I don't hide it either. When the subject of religion comes up, I tell them straight away, to their face, and immediately, without hesitation. Because I was getting to be real good friends with this man at work. And apparently he hadn't heard the rumor, or the people he knew hadn't told him that I was an atheist, because a lot of people at the factory knew I was atheist. And that's what he did. We were sitting there conversing at lunch, and he started talking about, or someone else started talking about church. he said, I go to this church. And they said, well, we go to this church. Everybody